stakeholder is probably more appropriate because I mentioned to you that the society is what is important. Society at large has to be represented. Shareholders is probably a kind of a minority community within the stakeholder universe. It has to take a broader view. Like for example, in an insurance company, the independent directors are required by law, by the regulator, Insurance Regulatory Development Authority. It requires you to stand up for the policyholders also, the customers essentially, and the distributors who are selling the products, and also the shareholders, and then the management, the employees. It is expected to be all the four are supposed to be taking care of all their interests. So it is kind of fairly well defined how one has to take care of the entire the stakeholders. So I support the stakeholder version, and which is broader. And even if, for example, I would say regulators have not defined it broadly, one has to define it broadly, and one has to do that because it's the company management is anyway looking at shareholders, right? It is maximizing return, maximizing profit is what the management does. And then what is the point in even if the board also does the same thing? It's just duplication. I have a simple personal rule that direction is more important than distance. I mean, I picked it up from the game of golf, right? I think where so even in governance, I would like to say, because distance may kami ho sakta hai, because it involves human efforts. Sometimes there can be some mistakes and errors. Just because there are errors and stuff like this, we can't hold the management responsible fully. But what is the direction looking like? Is the direction looking to fulfill the vision of the company, and the requirements of the law of the land, the requirements of the government, requirements of the regulator is what is really important. So what is the direction is really important. I always look at it saying, yeah, look, mistakes are fine one or two times. When I will like to look at, will define the success of a corporate governance, saying that it stays aligned with the direction, and the compass is not kind of deviating from the direction of the vision and of the expectation. As long as it is there, we can define it as a success. And some events here and there does not define. But very important is those events should be once off event. They should not form a pattern. If they form the non-compliances and or the mistakes and the governance issues that are getting pointed out, I mean, this is a broader issue, right? As you sit there, there are internal control issues, there are integrity issues, there are compliance issues, and then even more than compliance issues, there are issues of being customer friendly and all those things. But if all of them are forming a pattern, then there is a serious problem. One, the independent director has to be absolutely clear, saying that, yeah, direction seems to be fine, but it all seems to be coming like a pattern. So one should be able to have a pattern recognition, but that comes with experience. It's very easy. But by and far, I will stick to my main theory. Direction is more important than distance. I use this acronym called WYSIWYG, right? What you see is what you get. So it will be very because as independent directors, you are going to a company once in 3 months time. You can keep talking to the management, but still you are away from what is happening the day-to-day affairs, and that's the design. It's also designed to be that way. So you have to take certain extra effort. So when I kind of see some pattern or some kind of consistency where what I see is not what I get, there is a difference. Once and twice is fine. I earlier mentioned in my previous question, right? Once in a while, some mistakes are fine because human efforts can have. We are not infallible. We will make mistakes. But when I see consistency, or when I see people not correcting from the previous mistakes, and they are standing up, and then they are, like for example, let's go back to the umpire model, right? Umpire says, yeah, this is leg before wicket, LBW, you are declared out. And then you go to third umpire, and then third umpire says that, boss, it is LBW, period. And many times you have to draw a line somewhere, right? Like you can't just keep on going. But you are seeing a situation where the other person is not accepting that something is wrong, and he is arguing with the views of the umpire. Is a second situation where I will have a lot of worry, saying that, yeah, you are having a view, but the other guy is not accepting your view. And why do you have an umpire? You have an umpire because you have to accept his views, and he is expected. He is not playing, he is not bowling. He only gives views. And that too, you have got a problem with that. Then why do you have an umpire, right? I think so. I will have a problem in these two things. When I see something consistently, when I see opposite of Visivic, what I get is not what I see. That there is a misalignment between these three things. And then when I see consistently people challenging the views of the umpire, and that is not the intention. The intention is, you should play a game well, and that's where the camera is going to focus on. Camera is hardly going to focus on the umpire. It's going to focus on the player. So your game is to play, not to challenge the umpire. So those are the things. If it happens when people do this more, it worries me, saying that, yeah, I will be very worried about governance standards there in that entity. Value based ethical governance never loses its relevance. It is the only thing that is relevant, actually. Nothing else is relevant. And one has to be squeaky clean when it comes to disclosure, because I think it is very important to disclose. Disclosure is very important for everybody else to say that, we will all come with conflicts. It is potentially possible. Even if I am not going for a conflict, the opposition party may put me in a conflict. But I should disclose, saying that, yeah, this is what I'm doing, so that the other guy knows, and he is able to kind of, should there be a discussion coming around your area of conflict, either you excuse yourself or you say your view, then they will use it with your other information, saying that, theek hai, this is what you are saying, and we know this is an area that you are conflicted. Therefore, how can I use your advice, your views? People have an ability to think through and kind of edit and see it with a filter. So disclosure is really very important. And the issues that are coming out with corporate governance these days. I mean, you mentioned a lot of banks, particularly all your examples were banks, but there have been issues in quite a few startups, right? Theranos, Byju's. I mean, for example, let's take the example of Byju's, right? Byju is a $20 billion valuation, last official valuation. Now nobody knows what is the valuation. $20 billion valuation company did not have a CFO, and it had a delayed presentation of audited accounts. I mean, what else you need? You don't need anything more. This should straight away be a red flag, right? Saying, यार बंदा कर क्या रहा है भाई? This is the most valuable India's showpiece startup. हाँ, the कोहिनूर डायमंड ऑफ इंडियन स्टार्टअप इंडस्ट्री. उसमें इतना बड़ा दाग है, इतना बड़ा ये प्रॉब्लम है. Nobody is asking any question. There are investors who have, you and me have what is, we are all, I might not even have bought any product of Byju's, but these guys have put in billions of dollars. Why they are not asking any questions? I don't understand that. I think that is, so there are lots of questions. Like, for example, people have consistently inflated their sale. They have shown higher sales. Many startups have shown. Whatever has happened in startup can happen in other industries also. Corporate governance issues happens there in So, in ILFS, infrastructure, ILFS company, after a long time, they figured out that the company had a lot of corporate governance issues because people just get comfortable. They have not asked questions. They have not played the role of the umpire. Someone, there is one other very important thing. A whistleblower is important. Particularly, let's take the issue of the TCS case, where a resource management group guy has made a lot of money, understandably, and then one guy wrote, the whistleblower wrote. So wherever, I mean, it's such an important thing. It was not found out by the internal audit. It was not found out by any artificial intelligence. It was not even found out by the government. Government has got this annual information statement. आप कहाँ जा रहे हो, कहाँ खर्चा कर रहे हो, all those things, right? Wherever you go and buy things, it is able to produce you. Most of your income tax return is filled by the government. You have to say yes or no. So that is how the artificial intelligence has come to the help of the government now. But they have not figured it out. The company which is technologically superior company has got the best AI. They have not figured it out. So no system has figured it out, that the TCS. It was figured out because a whistleblower wrote. But very importantly, when the whistleblower wrote, the company immediately responded to it. They said, yeah, they have not brushed it aside. So that is the corporate governance that we need to do. Corporate governance fails because, let's understand, best of the company. What company can be there better than TCS? Best corporate governance, best company, best internal controls, best internal audit, well paid executives, good culture and everything. 100 crores more than, probably, I don't know the number, has happened for a long time. It was not discovered. So systems not necessarily to discover, provide for exception, encourage whistleblowing, encourage somebody else to say that. In fact, I have seen it. In fact, I can tell you so many issues where figured it out. In my experience, I have seen whistleblower as a mechanism is superb. I mean, that Wikipedia guy, there is one guy, right? I think Snowden or somebody like that. He's also a whistleblower. So, and I saw recently a movie about somebody whistleblowing against the Iraqi war. It's there in Netflix as a documentary or as a movie also. You can actually see. So this is very important. So we as a society, in as much as we want to have the umpires to be celebrated, we should also celebrate the whistleblowers. It's best to make them anonymous. You don't need to announce their names, but encourage whistleblowers, and then do not brush aside any complaint that comes from whistleblowers. That's when you can have much better. It's a right checks and balances. All systems, all controls, best of the format, corporate governance has not trapped this issue in TCS. It was trapped by a whistleblower. So let's understand that. I think it is very, very important to understand these kind of exceptions. And that's how one can have a best corporate governance. So yeah. So all these things are happening because we are not encouraging whistleblowers. Agar kisi ne, is there, every company must have a whistleblower ID. You have to just say, whistleblow at the rate of blah blah blah.com should have. So if I am a whistleblower, I will write there and allow me to write there. And then protect my identity. Give me a guarantee that you will protect my identity. Give me a guarantee that you will take action. Then I will blow the whistle. That's the best part of TCS, is that they took action. Immediately they took action. So that's what is really important. Many companies don't take action. I mean, tell me how many companies have got a whistleblower policy? How many companies actively encourage whistleblower? Whistleblower है तो उसको बुला के उसको blow देते हैं. They give him blows. You know why? Then how he will ever blow a whistle? He will not blow a whistle. We have to protect whistleblower. In a good society, for it to function, whistleblower is a very important function. It's what is very important. See, look, people character, normal distribution, right? I think it's a bell-shaped curve. If you really look at any normal distribution, I mean, I presume society ethics is also kind of normal distribution, and it is very ethical dilemmas are a big question. And so you will have in society, you will have people who who will have extremes, and exceptions will always be there in the society. But I presume those extremes and exceptions don't come into the corporate world. They generally operate outside the corporate world. Um, so in the corporate world, the dilemma is all with respect to a situation. That is what is very important. So situational role play is what is important. Most of the companies I have seen people asking questions, right? There are companies which have got chief ethical officer. They ask a lot of questions. There are role plays, there are examples of this particular situation. This is an accepted behavior, this is not an accepted behavior. So the law and ethics is not clearly, it is not black and white. There is a huge gray portion there. Then there are many shades of gray also there. So one has to be, how do we interpret when you are in a situation of gray? And that has to come from role play. And there, the storytelling and role playing, right, with the examples are the best thing to tell people. Like, how do we, I have seen companies, long back, there used to be 18,000 rupees used to be given to you tax free if you buy medicines for yourself. And people can provide any invoices for 18,000 rupees. And sometimes, during this, I'm talking about during my 1989 when I was studying for articles. My boss told me, Srini, look for Horlicks bills. If they are there, disallow them. I mean, and I used to look for Horlicks bills. So I'm just saying, but how? Horlicks may be a medicine for somebody else. I'm just saying, I don't know, like, it is very difficult to say just because somebody presented a bill of Horlicks, he is to be fired from the company. So what do you do? You should be absolutely, so these gray situations are something where one has to approach tactfully and intelligently, and then consider the context a lot more. And even, prisons are not meant to be incarcerating place, excepting for the hardened criminals, right? Most of the prisons are meant to be correcting you and then putting you back in the society. So, that I'm not saying these kind of things, somebody should be sent to a prison. I'm just saying there can be a situational prison. There can be a correctional facility which just corrects them and then puts them back into the society. So, his experience is not lost for the company. So that's really very important. How do we actually capture the situation, role play, make some corrections, and then put the guy back in there? Because human beings can make correction. The bulk of the guys who are staying in the bell portion of the bell-shaped curve, they are all. It's all about situational, right? It's only about situational. You are not an inborn. You are not a serial killer. You're just situationally. You claimed a Horlicks as an expenditure, so you can be corrected. You can be coached. So it there has to company has to run a proper program of this, and how we can actually coach this. It's very important to know this. And then when it comes to black or white situation, the punishment and the behavior of the company has to be exemplary. It just cannot have tolerance. You cannot have a tolerance for integrity. If somebody is made money, in someone accepted, let us say, when I was working in corporate, there was a situation where one of my staff accepted an air ticket to go to Azerbaijan or Armenia or somewhere like this. I don't know why he chose that place instead of going to maybe Ooty or this place, but it came to my light and it was proven. And from the time it came to our light until it was proven, the guy was kept under suspension. As and when it's proven, the guy was punished. There is no question. He was a very senior guy, very important guy to the company, but we asked him to go. Some 24,000 rupees or maybe 30,000 rupees in those days to go to Azerbaijan and come back. Yeah, but it was not tolerated. It cannot be tolerated, because not only just you tolerate this, you also share this with the people so that everybody knows that here a company में ये value है, value, and also the tone comes from the top, right? You have to, there are things, right? I think, what they say is at the senior level, there are two things. There is walk and the talk. Now, you talk. If I tell you, if I tell you two and show you three letters, you will not, your brain won't see what I'm saying. Your brain will see my hand, right? It will see it will believe what it sees. So the walk the talk is more important than talk the talk. A lot of people do a lot of talking the talk. So the tone at the top, walking the talk, they are all important. A company invariably ends up reflecting the culture of its senior management. There is no doubt about it. So, in order to have a proper culture, proper governance, all the thing, the tone has to be from the top. That's really important. So, how do you choose your leader? What are the, how do you reward him economically? How do you reward him? How do you take care? How do you bring him on board? Who are his coaches? It plays a huge role in determining corporate governance in that particular company. It is definitely significantly up to the CEO of the company.